Next thing she wants us to know about is she labels this section hitting the marks. And she says the key to identifying whether a worldview commits suicide is to uncover its particular form of reductionism. So again, over and over again, throughout the book, she uses this concept of reductionism to help make her arguments, right? And to show the problem with these various worldviews and theories. She says any theory that says truth claims are nothing but X, so that is an important phrase, right? Truth claims are nothing but X is susceptible to self-refutation. So any theory that says truth claims are nothing but, and then they add something there, this is susceptible to self-refutation. So for instance, she says, Karl Marx said that truth claims are nothing but, you ready? Rationalizations of economic interests. That's all truth claims are.
Sounds right? Like Marx, yep.
Yeah. Laws are created by the rich to protect their property. Religion is the opiate of the people, placating the poor with false promises of a happy afterlife. Now notice, okay, Marx, what happens if we apply your rule to your own theory? So his rule says that truth claims are nothing but rationalizations of economic interest. Is that claim nothing but a rationalization of economic interest? Right? If it is, if you're kicking the rest of them out, then you should kick your own out too, right? So did he create it merely to rationalize his own economic interests, she asked us. If so, we can dismiss it as a serious truth claim because he says, those type of economic rationalizations of interests don't work. And so if all truth claims are like that, his must be like that too. And if none of the truth claims that are like that work, then his doesn't work either.
Right.
Is the issue that she's trying to point out. Nietzsche, she says, held that notice all human action is, here it is, driven by the will to power. Yeah. Right? All human action is driven by the will to power.
Very standard Nietzsche summation. Yeah.
That's right. Morality is invented by the weak to give them leverage over the strong. It's kind of interesting here. Religion and morality are getting picked on, right? Marx said it's the opiate of the people. It's to keep people in their place, right? The strong over the weak. Nietzsche says morality is invented by the weak to give them leverage over the strong. So kind of just the opposite of what Marx was. Religion, he says, is a holy lie used to control people. But what about Nietzsche's own theory? Was it driven by his own will to power? So if a theory that's driven by will to power is wrong, is Nietzsche's theory driven by will to power?
Right.
Right. And if that's the case, then why should the rest of us pay any attention to it? Right. So all human action is driven by the will to power. All right, fine. What about your human action with regard to your theory? Is it driven by will to power? If it is, then we can dismiss it and not pay any attention to it, just like Nietzsche want to do with the rest of the theories that you evaluate.
Yeah, he just
wants Sigmund Freud.
Power over us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sigmund Freud insisted that our thoughts are shaped by unconscious emotional needs. Personality is shaped by things like early toilet training. Much of human behavior is a result of sexual repression. But what does that imply about the origin of Freud's own theory, right? If our thoughts are shaped by unconscious emotional needs, is your thoughts, Freud, shaped the same way?
Yeah.
And if so, if you're criticizing the rest of the thoughts, then yours falls into that same criticism.
Yeah, including the thought that thoughts are shaped by unconscious emotional needs.
Right. Yeah. Lastly, she talks about B.F. Skinner. Right, this is our behaviorist. Right, he's the king of behavioralism. Behavioralism was really big in the mid portion of the 20th century. B.F. Skinner held that humans are nothing but stimulus response mechanisms responding to rewards and punishment. Right, stimulus to response. You've heard of the experiment about Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
Right,
that drooling dog.
That's right. Ringing bells and drooling, right? And so that's a behavioralist type of experiment. So humans are nothing but stimulus response mechanisms responding to rewards and punishment. the behavior is explainable in terms of operant conditioning, like the pigeons in his experiment pecking at levers to get a pellet of food. But the question we can turn back to Skinner, right? Is Skinner's theory a product of his own conditioning? If it is, and he's saying that theories that are a product of self-conditioning are wrong, his would have to be wrong as well. And so it's self-refuting, right? And so she points out that what these philosophers all share is a refusal to take truth claims at face value. Instead, they interpret them as cover-ups for hidden motives and disguised self-interest, right? And so what she wants us to understand here is, as a tool of critiquing thinking, she says a hermeneutic of suspicion can be useful, right? In other words, we want to say, okay, what are they really saying? How does that apply to itself? We want to be suspicious of what they're saying. So a hermeneutic of suspicion can be useful to highlight common human failings, to diagnose the ways of our thinking may be distorted by things like economic interest or psychological impulses. Scripture teaches, she mentions here, that we deceive ourselves all the time about our true motives. The heart is deceitful above all things. Who can understand it? Jeremiah 17:9. So taken on its own terms, however, hermeneutic of suspicion is radically reductionistic. It simply abandons the question of truth, reducing it to questions of power and desire. So these folks, not us, as I mentioned, that was not correct, but these folks had a hermeneutic of suspicion. They were suspicious of all truth claims, and so they applied that suspicion to all truth claims, but they failed to apply it to their own truth claims. As a result, when it is applied to their truth claims fall apart as well. Yeah, if indeed what they say is true.
Yeah, I always think of Michael Shermer from Skeptics Magazine. How he's Mr. Skeptic. He's skeptical of all these things, well, except what's mainstream science and what the experts are telling him. And there's never a time where it's like, okay, let's be skeptical and turn this on its own head. Let's start questioning Bigfoot and those who respond to Bigfoot or Darwinism or whatever it might be. It doesn't seem like when you're skeptical, you're not quite skeptical enough, as the tagline for Mitch Stokes' books would say.
That's right.
Yeah.